right. Welcome to today's podcast, the If It Be Your Will podcast. Again, I'm diving deep in Canadiana these last few podcasts, and today I have the lovely Imogen Moon coming in from Vancouver Island.
No, Vancouver, but part-time on Galliano Island. That's probably where the confusion was.
Bingo. And how is it going with your wildfires? Are things calming, or what's going on over there?
It's okay. We don't have it as bad as the East Coast, but I work still at a restaurant job, and it's an outdoor restaurant. So the other day, being 6 hours outside in a little bit of smoke really can affect you.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. People say that their lungs start to heat up, and I'm over on the east side of you, and we also have some wildfires up in the northern part, and it's making its way down to the US, and Canadians are being called all kinds of names that we're polluting, and we're so green, love and peace, and now you're killing us all. I'm like, smoke, I don't know if it has borders. I don't know if they have passports, really.
I find it pretty hilarious as well, because, one of the biggest sources of this environmental issue is the US. Not saying that Canada is not, but it's pretty funny that it's, these big cities, creating a little bit of mess at least, and then it's traveling to Canada. Canada lights on fire, the smoke comes back to them, and they point their fingers back at Canada. I don't know.
Yes, our big beautiful world. Yeah. Which, it really brings kind of the climate change into a reality, right? That regardless of where you live, what you speak, who you are, whatever, you're affected by it. I mean, it's just a universal truth, eh?
Yeah. That's also sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Just that's such a big part of this album as well. Like, so much of this is surrounding the topic of environmental activism, and it's a huge topic, and it feels weirdly fitting that it's all happening right before this release.
For sure. Yeah. Well, that's something I wanted to talk to you about, Imogen, is that and correct me if I'm wrong, but you've been an activist, and your family has been an activist for quite a while, right? So your awareness of it is like very keen.
Yeah, definitely. So my grandfather wrote this album, and he wrote it in like the late 60s. It was released in 71. And at the time, that's when he started talking about environmental activism. My family has always been quite liberal, I'm going to say. I was raised in just kind of a household, not necessarily with specific subjects in mind involving this topic, but more so just with a baseline message of kindness, care for the planet, care for other people, acceptance, equality, that kind of thing. So my upbringing, just having to do with kind of the society that I was a part of, and my school system, just general upbringing, kind of revolved a bit more around social justice, equality for people, which was definitely part of my grandfather and my mother and my whole line of families radar. But that's kind of more what I was focused on. And climate activism, just it plays a part in every social justice issue, and that's what I think people don't really realize, is that all of these things are so intermixed. It's one big subject. It's not just a bunch of little things. And breaking this big subject down is super important, but it's also important to recognize they all play into each other. But I was definitely raised with those core values of just how can we achieve kindness, achieve equality, achieve, safety in the best way that's helpful and healthy to everyone around us.
Absolutely. Well said. Let's roll back 2 generations to your grandfather. And when did he write this album? And like, was this his only release? Could you give us a little history of your grandfather, Randle, I believe his name is, right?
Yeah, definitely. So this is his only release that we can get our hands on. There was apparently a few other singles that were released, but only on vinyl, so they're not accessible through anything online. Basically what happened is CBC took on this album, which was originally called Songs for the New Industrial State, and released it through CBC. And then there was some mix up with the just kind of the heads of the company, just the people in charge, and a bunch of albums from those few years around like 69 to 72. I'm going to say that's kind of a guess, but that's, yeah, an educated guess. A lot of them just kind
Close
of
enough.
yeah. A lot of them just went right under the radar, and no one really found them until they were, rediscovered from bins or, found on vinyl. So obviously at that time, nothing was released online. So Songs for the New Industrial State, my grandfather's record, got found by Light in the Attic Records in probably, I'm going to say 2006, and ended up getting re-released maybe 2009. Yeah. Ended up getting re-released online through Light in the Attic. So yeah, it was just it was one of these albums that he put a lot of effort into, but it just never really took off just because of this change. Like, it had the support initially. It just didn't follow through. He also, like, his true love was jazz, which is why it's so important that we wanted to reimagine this as a jazz album. But he created Songs for the New Industrial State in kind of like what was at the time 70s pop. He was writing jingles at the time just to make money so that he could continue being a musician. And he realized, that's kind of the only way to get this message across. So for anyone listening, if you haven't heard the original, it's really interesting to listen to, because the whole thing is done in the style of jingles, and in this very poppy, lighthearted way. And if you just break down the lyrics, it's gut-wrenching.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Really
I'll include it in the descriptor of the podcast so people get a chance to listen to it. When did you first hear this record?
My grandfather's? Oh, I was raised with it. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So you grew up listening to it in the house and stuff.
Like, off and on. I obviously, when I was younger, well, not obviously, I was much more drawn to melodies and exciting, pop layouts of songs. So it wasn't really until I was about 14 that I started going, wow, this is actually like the most incredible thing a family member has done. It's crazy. Yeah. So yeah, it's just always kind of been close to my heart and in the back of my mind. Yeah.
Right. And when did you start thinking about the idea that, wow, why don't I recreate this album from my vision or my standpoint? When did that idea start to become into your vision?
It's interesting. So me and my mom actually both thought to do this. She had been wanting to do it for a long time, and I was just young and I wasn't involved in the music industry, so it wasn't something that she mentioned to me. But I was a dancer until I was about 16, a very full-time dancer, like 25 hours a week type full-time. And I realized that I was only in it for music. So I left dance and didn't really know what I was doing, just kind of continued school, and then started kind of writing music at around 16, 17, but I didn't have any training. And then in my last year of high school, I went to my mom and said, I've written these 4 songs. Like, please, if you're going to get me any sort of grad gift, can I record these? Can I just like do something with them? And could I include 2 of Grandpa's songs? And she went, well, that's really interesting. We were in the car. And I remember this very clearly. We'd just come back from a jazz show in Seattle. And she said, well, I've actually been thinking of recreating the entire album with 2 female voices, because the original has 2 male lead voices. So, you're a singer. My mom's also a singer, by the way. I didn't mention that. Okay. She said, I've been thinking of doing this. Like, that could be really powerful. And I said, yep, totally. That can be yours. Can I do these 2 on my EP? And she said, yes. I didn't realize how much money it costs to record songs. So that didn't end up happening. We did, for my first EP, we did my 4 originals and then an interlude with my dad reading a poem about me and my mom singing in the background. One of the songs that my grandfather actually wrote for her. And then after that, we were kind of talking about it a little bit, and that's when COVID hit. And I decided not to apply to music school because the whole point is going and meeting people. So I didn't want to do it online. And then Corey Weeds was kind of friends with my mom just through a man named Ross Taggart, who sadly passed away. But they reconnected. My mom said, my daughter's doing music. Can you, give us some suggestions of how to move forward? And he said, well, does she want a career? Like, let's do this. Like, this is fantastic record. The original is fantastic. She's good. She has potential. I was shocked by that, but I was like, okay, sure enough. It just led to where we are now. So it was definitely something that was, again, like just on both me and my mom's radar, and we just kind of came together to do it.
Cool. And let's go to generation 2. So your mom and dad, how did they influence I imagine they must have been consumed by music as well, seeing as that, third generation was in music, writing music. Tell me a little bit about your mom and dad and you growing up in their environment, their musical surroundings.
Yeah, it's not even just music. They're just very artistic people as well. It's funny. They seem really like, I don't know how to say this. Like, you wouldn't assume that they have the depth that they have in art when at just kind of like first glance. But as soon as you walk into the front door of the house, it's just everywhere. There's like pickle statues and random spaceship lights everywhere and like neon signs, and you can just tell immediately. But I think my mom's influence was mostly through the record that she's going to be releasing soon, which is one that she also wrote with my grandpa. He wrote these songs for her. And so she recorded that in, I think, 2008. And I went to the recording studio and saw that process. And sadly, it just didn't get released because soon after that, my grandpa passed away, and her friend who I mentioned earlier, Ross Taggart, also passed away. And they were the two people that were really involved in that project.
Okay.
So yeah, I kind of just saw that environment. I was raised in a very artistic and open household. And yeah, especially with with dance, like that influenced a ton of music as well. And my dad's writing. My dad is an incredible poet. If I can shout him out as well. He just released his first book. Last year. It's called All the Broken Things. And he's my favorite poet. He writes poetry, he says, for people who hate poetry. It's super relatable. It's super just like straight out there. This feeling. I'm not going to use pretentious words and like try and confuse the fuck out of you. I'm sorry, can I swear on here?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. He just uses just very real, raw emotion. And that's kind of how I want to end up writing my music as well. So I got the influence of the musical, kind of more artistic feeling side from my mom and grandpa. And then this just like incredible writing talent influence comes from my dad. And I can only pray that I can end up writing as good as him one day. Yeah.
Well, that's amazing though. So, your soil is very rich in musical history and artistic expression. And when you were doing dance, like what kind of dance did you do? What was your style, or like, tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I danced at a program called Arts Umbrella. I was in the apprentice company until I guess I was in junior company for like a month or two before I was like, I can't do this. But I started ballet and flamenco when I started ballet from like, kiddie classes, like 2 years old. I started flamenco when I was, I think, 4 or 5. And my kind of true passion was more so flamenco, I think, just because of the music again. But the Arts Umbrella program brought me into mostly ballet and contemporary based dance forms. And then I kind of realized I wanted to do hip hop and flamenco a little bit more just because of the music. It was actually I've told this story before, but the kind of turning point for me where I realized that it was just about the music to me. I shouldn't say just, but it was mainly about the music. There was one day from my contemporary class where I had this teacher that was fantastic. Love her so much. And she was really like hard on people, but in a great way. And the piano player didn't show up for our class. And she said, does anyone want to put on their music? And my class kind of went, yeah, Imogen, put on that new song you heard, like put on your playlist. And I put it on, and halfway through the class, she stopped everyone and said, guys, just because, we're listening to this fun music, it doesn't mean you can lose focus. You have to, pay attention, keep working, keep moving. You can't be distracted. And then she pointed her finger at me in the room and she went, except you, Imogen, you have never worked harder in your life. And it was just
nice.
like, I couldn't, amazing. I couldn't deny that it was like my love for dance was because of the music. It had nothing to do with the movement of my body, I guess. Yeah.
Right. Do you incorporate some of that movement and that history into your music? Does it find its way into it?
I think the flamenco stuff really does. My first EP, you can see that a little bit more clearly because I was kind of, I was working with people that I was a little bit, I don't know how to say this, like a little bit more in control of. So I was saying like, change that to a polka, change that to this, and yeah, you can definitely see that shining through. I think more so in my EP, but also just, for this album as well, there's a song where Tommy Brennick, the guitar player, he kind of starts doing a few different riffs, and he's kind of like, what do you think about this one? What do you think about this one? And there's a little tinge of Spanish influence in the one that I chose, and I just went, that one. I love that one. Yeah. Right. So that definitely plays a part. Just being raised dancing flamenco. Yeah.
Yeah. And ultimately, how did you? So music started to come to the forefront. How did you find your sound? How did you go about? I
don't know.
The environment to see what you wanted it to be like, and your voice. I mean, your voice is super powerful, and very controlled. Like you always seem like your voice, you have control over it, and you never like let it, which I adore. I think that it's to have that kind of control, and listening to your songs as well. I love you understand the art of the pause, or the build, the pause, and then boom, pushing it through. Like I hear that in a lot of your songs, which I really adore. But your voice, like, how did you come about finding your voice, saying like, this is the style and this is the way I want it to sound? Like, what was that process like?
I'm going to be so honest. It can only do one thing. I've tried to go for like a, Christina Aguilera or like, full Mariah Carey type voice. I can't do it. It just doesn't work for me. Honestly, it's just what is really natural to me. I've kind of always had a voice that I've kind of felt like has sounded a little older, like not, I don't mean that in kind of a stuck up way, but just it sounds more like, I don't know. It sounds like I'm an older person. I don't mean that it sounds mature. I just mean it sounds like I am 40, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, your timbre is really like, it doesn't, and I totally agree with you. You never push it beyond, because I mean, I always thought that that's more theatrics, and I mean, your voice is just honest and true, and the lyrics come through more, I find, when the simplicity of the voice doesn't have to preoccupy you, because what I want to tell you about is really important. And I find that I can feel that through your songs.
Thank you. I mean, yeah, it's not really by choice necessarily. Like I absolutely admire the people that can do their big riffs. And most of the time when I listen to singers that I really admire, they do have that really intense belt and crazy runs, and they go through that whole thing. Like I said, it's kind of just how my voice is. It's, I guess, very similar to my mom's as well. If you listen, I'm hoping that her album comes out in the next year so that people can also kind of compare our voices, because it is really interesting.
Could you who your mom and the album title? What is it, so that we know that? Oh, sorry, the album title.
It is The Day Fats Waller Died. Yeah, okay. It's by Joanne Randle. Yeah. Nice. It might on the album cover, I'm not actually sure, because it was written by my grandpa as well, so it might say by Doug Randle featuring Joanne Randle, but yeah, it'll be called The Day Fats Waller Died. And it's very incredible. That up for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. So you were saying before that you have to work as a waitress to do what you want to do. What's success for you down the road? Like if somebody were to say, Imogen, describe to me what success means to you in the musical field. How would you describe success in that way?
Honestly, just being comfortable financially, like actually maybe comfortable. I think people use the word comfortable as in having like owning a home and stuff. I mean comfortable as in I'm okay, I'm safe. Being comfortable financially and knowing that people are positively influenced by either what I have to say or, some people don't even listen to lyrics. If you're positively influenced by the melodies that I put out, I'm so happy with that. So yeah, that's kind of all for me. I have heard from a lot of people that I should be shooting for way higher because I'm going to land a little closer, which is, I think I don't know. It's not like I'm being I'm not trying to be too realistic or like not be naive or anything. I just genuinely I'm not really aiming for anything specific. I kind of have always said I would like to go through this process as a musician, moving quietly and comfortably and see what happens with it, knowing that I'm in a safe place financially. And yeah, that's kind of, I kind of have a dream of like someone stopping me and saying, your song made me this, or your song played while I did this, or something like that. That's kind of like my version of success. Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. I mean, I'm sure it does. I mean, if everybody had a chance to talk to you that listened to your music, I'm sure you would hear those kinds of stories of, of how it's affected me or how it changed me or, yeah. What have you been listening to lately? Like what inspires you in your songwriting?
I have a full influence playlist. Can I pull it up right now and I'll read it to you?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I was actually just listening to this right before because I haven't listened to it for a while. Okay. If you want to find it, this isn't my artist profile, but it's my personal profile. It's also called Imogen Moon. And it's just called Influence IDK. Sorry.
Cool.
But yeah.
Cool. I'm going to pull that up.
Top song on that is Daydreaming by Daisy. Love her. She's fantastic to me. I've written a song on top of this song, like just on the chord progression. This song just has it was the first one that really inspired me to write over a chord progression. And her voice is just perfect. I'm obsessed with her. Lassa de Sala, if you know who that is. Lassa de Sala is she sings in Portuguese, English, I think French and Spanish. I might be wrong about that, but she sings in 4 languages and she's a gorgeous singer. There's some like jazz feel, but it's all very, very raw and what's the word? A lot of it's kind of tragic. Anyways, yeah, it's gorgeous. You should definitely check that out. That's LHASA and then DE and then SELA. She's definitely a huge influence. Joy Crooks, I just really admire so much because my tone is kind of similar to hers. Like my range is kind of similar to hers. And also she has fantastic music. She's also kind of new in the world. Obviously Amy Winehouse.
Yeah. I've seen that reference to you as well, the Amy Winehouse reference, which I think is apropos. It fits nicely.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, yeah, I was working with her band and that was mind-blowing to me. I couldn't even fathom how that happened, because of that I did when I was 18 and emo, but
right.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot.
That's cool.
Yeah, who else? Hold on. Smino's a huge one. Smino's a huge one. He's like an alternative rapper. But yeah, I saw his concert live once and he brought on just instead of everything being produced, like I'm imagining it was a bit more produced in the studio. He brought on a full live band and I was just amazed. I was like, this is like jazz and rap. It's incredible. It's perfect.
That's cool. Nice combo of the two styles, eh?
Definitely.
What about you performing? Like, have you performed in front of people before?
Yeah.
And what's that like? How do you approach a show or a performance or?
Well, it's tough. So part of the reason that I didn't mention earlier about why I kind of was leaning away from dance is I found the performance process very overwhelming. And yeah, so I kind of knew that it was something that really affected me. That also mental health also plays a part in that as well. And that's something that I'm still working on. I'm sorting out currently, trying to, figure my brain out. But yeah, so going into music was obviously a very strange step for me, because if I wanted to leave dance where I was in a group of people performing and like a little bit more to the sideline, a little bit more in the background, to leave for that reason and then to go straight into music where majority of this industry is performance, was very strange, and I couldn't figure it out myself. Yeah, so I performed twice. The process is stressful. I know I'll get a bit more used to it as time goes on. I remember that from dance as well. When I was, when I was younger, performing only once a year, it was a way bigger deal versus when I got to the age of like 13 and I was performing once a week. It simmered down a little bit. So yeah, my second performance singing wasn't as bad as my first, and I know my third won't be as bad as my second and all that. But yeah, my first was tough. It was for a fundraiser for an affordable housing committee on Galliano Island, where I was part-time raised. And yeah, it was a really big group. I mean, it was my first performance, and I think it was about 100 people. And I had a decently small band, like 3 people with me. So it was a lot. I didn't really know what to do, how to move, and how to prepare for it and stuff. Obviously I did as much as I could. And then at a certain point it was just like, you got to stop, the lyrics, stop reading them, But yeah, it's, my second performance was for a mystery theme night at like a Halloween murder mystery night, which was really fun. But yeah, I kind of just take a step back and try and see every song that's influenced me, how I want to rediscover my own music as well, and like how I can reimagine what I've already done and try and make it appropriate for the setting. And yeah, for sure.
And do you feel that obviously you were alluding to the first one was so, then the second got better, third got better, like progress is happening. How are you finding your tricks to engage with the crowd more or feel more at ease when you're doing your performances?
I mean, well, this is a hard one because I definitely do not feel at ease no matter what. Like, there's nothing I can really do. But I think to engage with the audience, like I was I don't know, just making little jokes and just being normal and just not really thinking about it. It was a lot easier on Galliano as well. Galliano is a really, really small community. It's about 1,000 people. So I knew most of the people in the room, and I could kind of be like, you guys know.
Right.
Remember that guy? What's he doing over there? So it was a little easier. Yeah, I think just like talking very openly and I don't know. I've been told a lot of times that when you get on stage, you can't say or show that you're nervous. I don't care. I will definitely just get on stage and be like, guys, you're freaking me the fuck out. Like, I'm going to sing anyways. That's kind of just how I do
it. Are you getting to the point now where looking to performing, because you have a new record coming out, right? So there's probably going to be some stuff coming down the pipe, which we'll get to in a minute, but are you looking to your next performances through different eyes or different setups or incorporating different kinds of feels or structures or musicians? Like, how is your vision for your next performance? How is it looking in your mind?
I think I want to like just get into like a full body fake persona of how I view the people that I admire. I just want to like, I don't know, really copy someone, and just take on that person, like make it feel like a little bit of a costume almost. Like, not that I want it to feel fake to me, but just to say, how would I feel confident here? If I, got on stage and I did my hair in the way that this girl did her hair, and I love the way that she did it. And then I can go, you know what? She looked great. I can look great. I don't even need to look in a mirror. Let's just trust it, Or I loved the way that she like, did this movement or said this thing. You can, take that on. It's an important copying someone is a very important part of an artistic process. Definitely. There's nothing without influence, right?
No, I
I think just like taking that on. I found, so I actually got asked to do a gig, which sadly can't happen next week. And the first two times that I received, actually, I mean, not that I received requests, but the first two times that I did perform and agreed to perform, immediately my heart just like sank to my stomach. I was so scared. I was so unbelievably anticipating stage fright, anxiety, everything that comes with that. And this time someone asked me if I would do a performance, and I just kind of went, yeah, that could work. And I just realized in my head, and I got so happy. I was like, oh, it's full body relief. Like, when people say, if you're not sick right now, appreciate that your nose isn't running. It felt like that. I could recognize that I didn't have this anxiety in me. And I was like, oh my God, I feel so light. I just like said I could try and do this. And I didn't freak out. I didn't get nervous. It's incredible. There you go. It's gonna get better and better, I hope. And
absolutely. I love your idea too of a persona. Like, I think that when you are performing, you almost have to step outside of yourself a little bit, and kind of let some of your anxieties and fears and you just kind of not hide, but that you have this persona on stage, And I love how you're coming to that.
Yeah. Like it's just finding how you can, like how you want to represent yourself. I could represent myself in 1,000 different ways, like it might be seen as bad, but I know that I can relate to someone in a different way than I can, I'm relating to you in a different way than I relate to like the guy that works at the coffee shop that I go to. It's just a different interaction. And you put on a face and you put on the persona that is agreeable in that situation. And that's just knowing how to read a room, right?
That's it.
So yeah, like
the many hats we wear, The many hats.
yeah, exactly. And as long as I know what room I'm going into, it's fine.
Cool. Yeah. Cool. Well, I mean, you're very charming, so I'm sure that on stage you're as charming as you are just talking to you. I'm willing to guarantee that. So as we kind of bring this to a close, tell me about your new record a little bit, when it's coming out. And I'd love for you to, if you could, I always ask this question. If you had a thesis statement about this record, okay, so 1 or 2 lines about what the essence of this record is, what would you say?
I don't know if it's a thesis statement because I didn't go to college, but I'll give you a little catchphrase.
There you go. I'll take it.
Well, I'll just say, I think this album is, let me think about it. I would say it's intricate. It is personal to every listener. It will hopefully make you think as much as you want to. That's kind of what I'm hoping for with this. I want everyone to be able to listen to it casually and also sit down with it and dive into it in their own mind and be like, wow, what does that mean? But also just turn it on when they're like at a barbecue or whatever. Okay, this is getting so much less thesis statement-y. You asked for a thesis statement. So.
I like it.
You want to play my song at barbecue?
Funny you say that because I'm smoking a pork shoulder today, and I was playing your songs as I was like,
very ironic.
This is awesome. And I just wanted to mention your latest release, the Nicolston Dam. I mean, wow, what a song! I mean, your first record is, I don't want to say less intricate, but I think that it's more honest, and there it is.
Don't even worry. Like, I know what it was. It's okay.
Lovely nonetheless. But I love this, the musicality and the instrumentation you have in there. Yeah. I mean, just that saxophone, that low baritone saxophone throughout is just like, wow. Like, I just listened to that. That it's one track.
Yeah, so Ian Hendrickson Smith, I haven't even mentioned this yet, it was the producer to this entire album. And it's a major part of how all of the songs were made. Like you said, my voice stays really simple. And that's something that I specifically got because Ian is the intricate player on this. You know, a sax mimics a voice mimics a sax. And he played into that so heavily along with Dave Guy. So yeah, that is like 100% the turning point of the album. Without the horn section, it's so different. It's a whole different feeling.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I admire
it. Lifts it, you know, it really lifts it up, and
absolutely.
It's so listenable too. So, I mean, when is it coming out? When can we expect to hear the whole thing from start to finish?
The album is coming out July 21st. Yeah, I forget a lot in general.
Cool.
The album's coming out July 21st, and the second single, which is called "Songs for the Middle Aged," is coming out June 16th. So 6 days from now. Or I guess when this gets posted, 5 or 4 days. So
that's right. And what's coming down the pipe for you? So you have your album coming out. What are some other things we can look forward to seeing Imogen Moon down the road? What are we going to see?
Guys, if someone's listening right now and you want to reach out, let's do it.
You want to go on a world tour?
No. I just want to collab with people.
Right.
Yeah, it's tough. It's hard to know. I have a lot of different music that I want to release as well, just of my own originals. I'm really excited, actually, after this album's release. I've enjoyed this process so much, but I'm really excited to get back into working on my originals because, you know, it's a bit more intimate. It feels a bit more like me, as much as this feels like my history. This is kind of like, wow, that's cheesy. We're going into my future. But yeah, I have a lot of music that I've written in the past year or so that I really want to get out there soon. Cool. And I really, really want to experiment with genres like so badly. I love jazz so much, but jazz influence is what I need. And as long as that little bit of influence is in my writing, I'm okay. So yeah, I'm really interested to try and do some just more like R&B songs, a bit more rock, a bit more alternative. I'm really interested. I wish, like, my dream collaboration is with a guy called Galimatias, who does some like electronic, but like alternative electronic music, I guess. Yeah, and he's just incredible. I would love.
Is he a Canadian or is he from Canada?
I forget where he's from. Somewhere in Europe, and now lives in LA.
Okay.
But yeah, he's just really good. Like, I've just been listening to him since I was in grade 10, and yeah.
Nice. What a dream that would be, though, to have him collaborate with you. Wow.
Yeah. But yeah, I just want to experiment with a bunch of different genres and kind of see where it takes me. Right. And also find my fan base based on that. Obviously, if I do two things, two different genres, and I love them equally, and a fan base comes out of one of them a lot heavier, then I'm going to probably lean in that direction. But yeah, I just want to experiment now and keep collaborating and keep writing and see where it goes. Right
on. Well, I want to just thank you so much for taking some time on this Saturday, I guess early afternoon for you now. I really enjoy talking with you. I think that your music's really wonderful, and I can't wait to see what's next. And I really love what's happened already. So your timeline is exciting. And
thank you.
I really look forward to what your new record, and then all what else comes down the road. And if you're ever coming in the East Coast, I'll definitely come and check you out.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you. Thanks for listening to me ramble. I know it was it's
been a pleasure. It's a real pleasure. It's not ramble, it's conversational and enlightening. I mean, you've had such a great history already, and your foundation is just so fertile for music. So I wish you a ton of luck, ton of success.
Thanks. I really appreciate that. Thanks for having me. Yeah.
I've been busy chasing after rainbows. Never got around to catching all those pretty rainbows. But watching the colored sky is what I like doing. Some guys got a action, but I'm content just killing time, watching the trout leaping over the Nicolston Dam. Oh, see the pretty rainbows, watching the trout leaping over the Nicolston Dam. Don't know what's wrong with myself, I should get up and go now. The world is moving fast and I'm still moving slow now. It's leaving me behind while I sit here dreaming. Some guys got to aim at the stars, I just can't understand it. So here I sit where I like to be, watching the trout leaping over the Nicolston Dam. Oh, see the pretty rainbows, watching the trout leaping over the Nicolston Dam. Do what you like, I like to do what you are doing. Oh, see the pretty rainbows, be what you like, I like to be what you are being. The pretty colored rainbows, don't try to change the times that don't need a changing. I may just change it all by myself, get on up and get working, but not until I have had my fill, watching the trout leaping over the Nicolston Dam. Watching the trout leaping over the Nicolston